Hi everybody. This video is going to be a quick recap on how to write equations of lines. So on the right side of the screen is the notation we'll be using. When we're talking about points, we'll call them x1, y1, x2, y2. Our slope formula is y minus y over x minus x. Now I didn't say y2 minus y1. The order actually doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. You can say y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And then when you get around to writing equations of lines, you either use point slope form, which is most common when writing an equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I'll just point out here, in point slope form, y and x are variables, and those stay variables. x1, y1, those are coordinates of a point. And then finally, slope-intercept form is when you solve for y. We typically say y equals mx plus b, and the number b turns out to be special. That's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. So that's the y-intercept. All right, so in this problem, we're going to find the equation of a line between 2 points. Now, really, the key is in the name. Point slope form is called point slope form because that's what you need to find the equation of a line. You need any point on the line, and you need the slope of the line. Well, we have 2 points. That's great. So we need the slope. We'll use the slope formula. The slope, m, is y minus y, so I'll say 5 minus 4 over x minus x. Negative 5 minus negative 2. If you wanted to say negative 5 plus 2, that's fine. It's the same thing. So 5 minus 4 is 1. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So the slope is negative 1/3. I'm not going to put the negative sign with the 3 or with the 1. It doesn't really matter with that where it's at. This is a single number. This is the number 1/3, and it happens to be negative, so negative 1/3. All right, so now we have the slope of the line, and we have 2 points on the line. So if point slope form means anything, we're ready to find the equation of the line. I pick either one of these points, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this one since the numbers are different. And we write down point slope form. So the variable y minus the y coordinate of this point, so y minus y1, equals m, the slope, times x minus x1. Now x minus negative 2, I'm going to go ahead and write as x plus 2. So that's the equation in point slope form. And now I'm going to solve for y because the instructions say that I need slope-intercept form. So I'm going to use the distributive property first, and we'll do this in 2 steps. So let's use the distributive property. We have negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times 2, that's negative 2/3. And now to finish the algebra, we're going to add plus 4 to both sides. We're trying to get y by itself. Now, if you can't work with fractions in your head, that's perfectly fine. Get out a piece of scratch paper to do your work with fractions. So negative 1/3 x. 4 minus 2/3, that's 12/3 minus 2/3 is 10/3. Don't worry about doing the addition in your head. Like I said, get out a piece of scratch paper to do 4 minus 2/3. I don't want to make the video longer than it has to be by doing all of the arithmetic. So here's the equation now written in slope-intercept form, which the instructions ask for, and we happen to run across the y-intercept. If we were to graph this line, it would cross the y-axis at 10/3. Okay, now give me a minute to erase the left-hand side of the screen. I want to keep the right-hand side up, so I don't want to press my clear all button. And we're going to do 2 more examples of finding equations of lines. This time, the examples will be a little bit more geometric in nature. So let's see what we have. We have that we want the equation of a line that's through the point negative 2, negative 4, that's parallel to the line y equals 8/3 x minus 1. Now, in order to do this problem, there's a fact that you need to know about parallel lines. I'll write it over here. Parallel lines have the same slope. Well, that makes sense. If you have two lines that run in the same direction, two parallel lines, well, they have to slope in the same direction, or else they would touch each other and they wouldn't be parallel. So parallel lines have the same slope. And once you know that fact, this problem is extremely straightforward. The slope of this line is 8/3. Our line has the same slope, so that means our line has slope 8/3. So now we have a point, we have the slope, so we use point-slope form. It's all in the name. So y minus -4, and I'll change that to y plus 4, equals m, the slope, times x minus -2. So this is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. This is just point-slope form. Use the distributive property. Y plus 4 is 8/3 x plus 8/3 times 2 is 16/3. And now we need to subtract 4 from both sides. Again, get out a piece of scratch paper to work with the fractions if you're not comfortable with the fractions. So we have y equals 8/3 x. Well, 16/3 minus 4. That's 16/3 minus 12/3, which is 4/3. So there you go. That's the equation in slope-intercept form. I have one more example that I'm going to show you. And again, give me a moment to erase everything. I want to keep the right-hand side of the screen up. So we just did an example talking about parallel lines. We're going to do one more example that talks about perpendicular lines. So the fact that you have to know about perpendicular lines, and perpendicular lines, those are two lines that intersect at a right angle. So perpendicular lines, they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now that's kind of a mouthful, so I'll give an example of what I mean by that. Opposite reciprocal slopes. So there's two parts to that phrase, opposite and reciprocal. If one line had a slope of, let's say, 3/4, the opposite reciprocal, well, this number is positive, so an opposite sign is what we mean there, is negative, and reciprocal is when you turn a fraction upside down. So if two lines had these slopes, they would be perpendicular to each other. Another example, if one line had slope, let's say -5, a line perpendicular to it, well, opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of a whole number is 1 over that number. So two lines with slope -5 and positive 1/5 would be perpendicular. So that's actually the example involved in this problem. So y equals -5x. This line has slope -5. Our line is perpendicular to it, so our line has opposite reciprocal slope. That's positive 1/5. Now we have a point on the line, we have the slope of our line, so we use point-slope form yet again. Y minus -2 equals 1/5 times x minus -4. Use the distributive property. 1/5 times 4 is 4/5. Now for the algebra, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. So we have y equals 1/5 x, 4/5 minus 2, that's 4/5 minus 10/5. I think that's negative 6 over 5 if I did the math right. So here's the equation in slope-intercept form, and we're done. Anyway, this was just a crash course in writing equations of lines. Hope it helped.